Respected viewers, today we are going to tell you a heart-wrenching story about a young man who sacrificed his life to avoid committing sin. Stay with us to learn the detailed account of this incident. This story is about a man named Abdul Karim. Abdul Karim's parents passed away when he was a child, and growing up as an orphan was not easy for him. It was Allah's will that his father had left behind some wealth, but it was not enough to sustain him comfortably for a lifetime. One day, Abdul Karim grew up. Only those who have lost their parents can truly understand the hardships they face. Abdul Karim had no close relatives in the world, no brother, no sister. One day he met a pious and beautiful woman, and the two got married. Abdul Karim deeply loved his wife because she was his only support. Apart from his wife, he had no one else in this world. He could not even imagine spending a single day without her. He was so engrossed in his love for her that he stayed home all the time and even stopped going to work. One day, Abdul Karim's wife said to her husband, "How long will you keep relying on the wealth left behind by your ancestors? You used to work hard and do labor, but now you have even stopped that. If we continue living like this, poverty will soon knock on our door. Allah has given us enough to eat, but this will not last forever. If you do not step out of the house and seek a livelihood, the rest of our lives will be filled with hardships," said Abdul Karim's wife. Abdul Karim replied, "You do not understand. The thought of being away from you and my love for you does not let me leave the house. I do not want to go anywhere, leaving behind a beautiful, innocent, and loving wife like you. My heart does not find peace anywhere without you." His wife responded seriously, "This is the way of the world. A man must go out and work hard to earn a living. If every man thought like you, how would the world function? If people could receive sustenance without effort, they would all stay at home, and the entire system of the world would collapse. You must do something for yourself and your family." However, Abdul Karim did not agree with his wife. He was unwilling to leave the house under any circumstances. One day, his wife came up with a plan. She said, "I am very distressed here. You must do something." Then one day, she told Abdul Karim, "I have a wish. If you truly love me, then leave this village for at least a year and go somewhere else to work." Hearing this, Abdul Karim was astonished and said, "How can I live without you? I cannot even step outside the house without you." "I do not even step outside the house, and you are asking me to leave the village?" His wife gently said, "If you truly love me and want to prove your devotion, then fulfill my wish. Love requires sacrifice." Abdul Karim pondered over his wife's words and finally said, "All right, for the sake of your love, I am ready to leave this village. I will sacrifice my comfort for you and fulfill your wish." Hearing this, his wife was overjoyed that her husband had finally agreed to leave the house. Abdul Karim decided to leave the village and go to the city. His wife was confident that this would improve their financial situation, but reality was different. After Abdul Karim left, his wife found herself consumed by loneliness. On the very first day, she realized how painful her husband's absence was. She thought, "I was the one who advised him to leave. I was the one who forced him to go, so now I must endure this with patience." A year was not an easy promise to keep, but she tried to control her heart. Days passed, but she grew weary of fighting her desires and emotions. One night, as she lay alone, Satan began to fill her mind with strange thoughts. Her mind started to waver, and eventually, Satan succeeded in his deception. A few days later, she received news that Abdul Karim had abandoned his work in the city. She thought, "This is all a consequence of my advice. I forced him to leave, and now we are both trapped in our own struggles." One day, overwhelmed by severe loneliness and emotional distress, Abdul Karim's wife was compelled to make a decision. She tried her best to control herself, but Satan led her astray. She convinced herself that the solution to her desires lay in her own actions. With this thought, she discreetly made her way to an infamous place, avoiding the eyes of the neighbors. She approached an old woman who had once been a courtesan. Abdul Karim's wife said to the old woman, "My husband has not been home for a year. He sends money, but he does not return. I was the one who sent him to the city to earn a living, but now I can no longer bear his absence. I have endured a lot, but now my heart is out of control. I want to fulfill my desires in some way, but no one should ever find out. Otherwise, my husband will leave me, and that is something I can never accept. Can you help me? The old woman, who already regretted the wrong choices of her past, took a deep breath and said, "My child, I left this path a long time ago and have no intention of returning. You have made a mistake by coming to me. This path will only bring you more difficulties. If you truly love your husband, then control your heart and make your life decisions with patience and wisdom," said the old woman. But Abdul Karim's wife did not understand this advice. Disheartened, she returned home, but restlessness still lingered in her heart. The next day, she decided to step out herself. Passing through the village paths, she reached a mountainous area. However, an internal conflict raged within her. Am I really doing the right thing? Will this desire of mine ruin my life and my relationship? One day, as Abdul Karim's wife, tormented by loneliness and emotional turmoil, was passing through a deserted area, she found herself in a completely desolate place where no one usually passed. But she had to go through this path. As she kept walking, she reached near a hill and noticed a cave. Night had fallen and darkness was spreading. She thought, I should take shelter in this cave for the night. When she entered, she was surprised to see a faint light inside. Seeing this, she wondered, where is this light coming from in such a deserted place? Curious, she stepped further inside. In one corner of the cave, a man was sitting with his back toward her. She slowly approached him and called out, "Hey, who are you, and what are you doing alone in this desolate place? Why do I hear the sound of crying?" The man turned around, and she was stunned. He was an extraordinarily handsome young man. Such beauty she had never seen in her life. The young man, in a weary voice, said, "I have no home. I was driven out of the place where I once lived. Now I have taken shelter here. I have been starving in this cave for 7 days. I have nothing to eat or drink. I feel like my life is coming to an end. But who are you, and what brings you to this place?" Abdul Karim's wife looked at him intently and said, "I have come here for an important task. I was looking for a young man who could help me. If you do my work, I will give you as much money as you ask for and feed you to your heart's content," she added. Hearing this, a glimmer of hope appeared in the young man's eyes. Without hesitation, he said, "I am ready to do anything for you. Just tell me what I need to do and where I need to go." The young man had no idea what kind of work he was being called for. Abdul Karim's wife said, "Come with me, and I will explain everything to you." The young man, weak with hunger, followed her without question. They both left the cave and, passing through the mountainous region, walked along a desolate path. During this journey, many thoughts crossed the young man's mind about where they were going, but hunger and helplessness kept him silent. Finally, they reached a place where the old courtesan was waiting. She took the young man and brought him to Abdul Karim's wife's house. Knocking on the door, the old woman said, "I have arranged a young man for you. He is ready to do whatever you ask of him." As soon as she heard this, she became uncontrollably happy and immediately opened the door. Her husband was standing there, tired yet joyful. The moment she saw him, she embraced him tightly, and her happiness knew no bounds. Her husband said, "I had gone to earn for us, but I couldn't find peace without you. I kept thinking about you and decided to leave everything behind and return as soon as possible." Hearing this, tears welled up in the woman's eyes, but they were a mix of joy and regret. She thought to herself, if that young man hadn't guided me onto the right path today, I would have made a terrible mistake. She hugged her husband even tighter and thanked Allah for saving her from committing a grave sin. She vowed to control her emotions from now on and to be a loyal and devoted wife to her husband. The next day, she went to the old courtesan and said, I have realized that true love and loyalty bring real happiness. The path I almost took would have only led to ruin and disgrace. The old woman smiled and said, My child, you have finally found the right path. Always remember, love demands sacrifice, but never at the cost of your dignity and faith. After that, the woman sincerely repented to Allah and started a new chapter in her life with her husband, a life built on love, honesty, and trust. I can't stay away from you for long, so I came back quickly. The woman welcomed her husband inside and prepared food for him, but deep inside, waves of fear and regret surged through her heart. Her husband sensed that she was hiding something, but he chose not to say anything. That night, as her husband slept, the woman was overwhelmed with guilt. What a terrible mistake I have made. That young man sacrificed his life but did not walk the path of sin, while I, blinded by my desires, not only took the life of an innocent, but also shattered my husband's trust. With tears in her eyes, she turned to Allah and prayed, O Allah, please forgive me. I have committed a grave sin. Grant me guidance and mercy, and cleanse me of my transgressions.